Hi beauties, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about my favorite makeup brushes for the year 2019. I know that we're already in 2020. I've been really trying to crank out my favorite videos for the year of 2019, and I'm down to my last couple that I want to share with you guys. So if you want to find out more about my favorite makeup brushes and other tools, then just keep watching. My first video about my favorite brushes last year, and I felt like I probably talked about every brush that I own, but it really wasn't, but it was a lot of brushes. So this year I tried to narrow it down a little bit more and talk about my absolute favorite brushes. So last year's video again is more extensive. It's gonna talk about more brushes. If you're really looking for more brushes in your collection, you may want to check out that video too. All of those brushes are still in my collection. I'm just not going to talk about all of them today. So watch last year's video. I'll link it in the cards, but watch that video if you want to see more brushes, and then stay tuned for this one as well, and I'll talk about my absolute favorites for the year. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for joining me for today's video. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button as well as turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my uploads. Here on my channel, I talk a lot about beauty products. I like to do product reviews, hauls, favorites. Whenever I have new hair extensions, I love to talk about hair as well. All things beauty that I can think of, I will talk about, do a few makeup tutorials. And I am in my mid 40s. I'm 46 years old. Go ahead and put it out there. If you're in that age range, this might be a nice place for you to settle down. We like to have fun here. The Savvy fam is cool, so make sure you click that subscribe button and join us. I'll go ahead and give the disclaimer that the brushes are not clean. Some of them I use today, but they're not clean at all. I'll try to talk about these brushes in order because it might help me. Okay, this brush here is a Sephora brush. It is the Pro Foundation brush number 47. I'm not sure if I got this brush this year or last year. If it was last year, it was towards the end. Well, I got this brush to apply foundation to help with my buffing brush. My buffing brush is, if you squirt the foundation onto the brush, your brushes just get dirtier and hold more foundation. And I thought it would be a good idea to sometimes spread my foundation out first and then buff it in with my brush, and it helps my brush not be so dirty. That's really how I use this. But this brush is also good for applying concealer. It's just a perfect size for concealer. So sometimes I will grab it for that. But most of the time I will just use it to apply my foundation, and then I will follow this brush with a buffing brush. So if you have the extra coins and you want to take the time to have that extra step, then this is a really nice brush to have. I do have more high-end brushes, but I do have a few affordable, and I love Sephora brushes. I work at Sephora now, but I was loving Sephora brushes before I started working there. I love their brushes. This brush I re-upped on. I had one before, and it's raining like cats and dogs here, and I've always heard that if it thunders during the winter, you're supposed to have snow in 10 days, and it thundered a few minutes ago. So I'm gonna be looking for some snow soon. This is the Real Techniques Expert Face brush. It's a tongue twister. All of them are tonight. But this is a buffing brush that I used to swear by when I first started purchasing brushes and I was learning how to apply makeup. I went with a lot of drugstore brushes because I didn't know what I was doing. So I went with drugstore brushes. I had a little travel size kit from MAC Cosmetics, and I used a lot of their brushes. And let's pray that the power doesn't go off. Please don't go off power. This one is really good even if you do like high-end brushes for buffing in your foundation. So I love this brush. Another brush that I use a lot, this one is really dirty. I need to wash them all tonight or tomorrow. But this is an IT Cosmetics CC Plus Skin Perfecting Brush. This is the Heavenly Skin Brush. It has like some skincare abilities or something in it. It's good for aging skin. I can't remember, but it's got something, some quality that helps with your skin. But I really like this one. It's not too small. Like both of these are similar in size. This one's a little smaller, but I like for my buffing brush to be around this size or larger. So this one I really enjoyed this year. And my favorite brush that I actually had gotten away from and started using it again, and this is like a bamboo brush. I can't remember the exact name. I'll link all of these items in the description box. But this is a foundation buffing brush from Tarte. And it is short, but it is just like this perfect fat. This is fat and it gives you this airbrush finish. It is synthetic even though the bristles are light. It's one of the quickest ways to apply foundation and it looks so airbrushed and flawless. And one of my subscribers like commented and said, I'm so grateful that you talked about this brush. So she went out and bought it and loves this brush. So this is amazing. I've purchased this brush 3 times. My daughter bought one from me. I bought another one and it broke. And I still liked it so much that I went back and bought it again. That's how good this brush is. I'll mention this brush too because technically this is a foundation brush. This is also by It Cosmetics and it says Airbrush Foundation. So you can use this to apply foundation. But I use this brush to buff out any harsh lines that I have whenever I wear bronzer or contour products, like so that I don't have any harsh lines. I will just buff them out and it just softens so that it doesn't look like you put on bronzer, contour, and that kind of thing. And I feel like my power is getting ready to go out. If you see blinking, my power is trying to go out. Please, power, don't go out. Those are my foundation brushes. The main brush that I use to apply concealer is this Kabuki brush. It's a 3D HD Kabuki brush by Sigma. The denseness of these bristles is perfect for blending out concealer, especially if you have like aging eyes, you have wrinkles, and you just really need to smooth out. It's something about the denseness that just smooths this out and makes my under eye look really smooth. So this has been my absolute favorite brush for concealer, and see how well it fits here? And it just smooths out the under eye and it really applies the concealer just perfectly. Like, I will use a beauty blender sometimes. It's also a favorite tool. And sometimes I still have to go back over it with this brush to just smooth it out so that it lays really smoothly over my pores. So I love this for concealer. And another concealer brush that I purchased, I think it was this year, was this Airbrush Detail brush number 57. And I use it for concealer. I purchased 2 of them now. I had one and I liked it so much I bought a second one. So I'll have one here and I have one in my temporary home. I live 2 places. Watch some of my previous videos if you want to find out more about that. I like to use it to really get into these eye sockets with concealer. It's good for anywhere small. So if you want to get in small places, if you want to put concealers on like a dark spot and it's a small spot, you can just do this and buff it out and it gives you this perfect airbrush finish. If you're looking for just something new to add to your collection that you didn't think you needed, this is the brush to get. It's really small, but it's so good. It is such a good detail brush, but really great for applying concealer. So if you're the type of person that doesn't put on like a lot of concealer and you just really like to use it to get those dark spots and you don't put on much, this one would be really perfect for you. Really good. I bought this brush to use as a foundation brush, but I really felt like the head of this brush was too small, so I didn't grab it that much to spread out my foundation. But it is the Flawless Airbrush, and it's like a, it doesn't say foundation, but it's for foundation, and it's the number 56. But I started using it also for concealer. The Kabuki brush I have left here, and I take this one with me and I use this on an everyday basis. Even though this is more like an airbrushed finish, it's like a bigger one of this one. They're both made similarly, but I use this one for my concealer areas and it blends it out beautifully. So this is great for blending out concealer as well, even though it is a foundation brush, but I love it and it's from Sephora. Moving on to powder. A brush that I think I discovered either this year or last year. This is a Real Techniques Instapop face brush. I really don't know what its intent is. I don't know why it was created, but I like to use it to apply powder. It has dense fibers and it's got this really unique shape. And I guess you could use it for maybe contour or bronzing, but I like to put it right here to apply powder. That's the main place that I like to use it. I go like this, boop, 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 boop. But I also then will like pop it, bounce it in. I will also, I'm sorry that my lighting is blinking, but I will also bounce it in to the skin and put the powder everywhere. This is so great for applying powder. Oh my goodness, I need to start checking the weather. before I film a video. Another brush I like to use for powder, this is actually a foundation brush, okay? This is the Sephora Pro Featherweight Complexion. This is the number 90 brush from Sephora. And it's really supposed to be used as a lightweight brush for foundation to give yourself a light coverage. I bought this to use it for powder. It looks like a powder brush. I bought it for powder. And they make this in a larger size as well. But I use it to powder right here. Sometimes I will grab this one instead of my Instapop. Most of the time I use the Instapop. But sometimes I grab this little small brush here and I like to use it for powder. Like when I'm filming, especially like right now, if I wanted to touch up my makeup while I'm filming, I will grab this little brush and just go boop, 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 boop. Next, another powder brush that I got this year or last year was this Sonia G Face 1 brush. I watched another YouTuber talk about this brush and how it was the best for applying powder. And it was just unique the way she described it. And I was trying to get some high-end brushes, so I decided to choose this one. Don't know why I chose this one, but I wanted to get some brushes that were more expensive. It is very, very soft. If I put powder in my cap here, I actually put some here. One of the things that she bragged about was that it doesn't move the product underneath. It's so soft, and she's right, that when you buff it in, I think it was Michelle Wong that I watched, when you use this to buff it in over other things, it doesn't remove whatever it touches. It just applies the powder very softly, so it doesn't disturb the makeup underneath. That's the good thing about this brush. You can also use this to apply bronzer. I've used it for that before, or other powder products. But I like to use it to buff in a finishing powder or any type of face powder. It's really, really good. I think I talked about this brush before, and this is the Morphe M406 brush, and it's like a duo fiber, I think, brush, and it's really fluffy here. And this is really good for applying like my Lancome Absolute powder or my Hourglass Ambient powder, where it has those like little glow particles. Any type of glow powder, you don't want to apply something like that with a very dense brush, because you will look like you just lit up from within for real. So what this does is just lightly applies that to the skin and just dusts it all over without it being too heavy. But you can use it to apply other powder too. So if you are a person who's maybe more dry, you don't want to put a lot of powder on, and you want it to be a really light application, I would recommend a brush like this for that. But that's what I use this brush for. So this is one of those brushes I have to have because it has such a specific use. This brush right here, this fan brush, I know I talked about this one last year, and this is the 92 fan brush, and I think when I bought it for bronzer, but I never could get with it with bronzer, even though it's probably good. It's just too fluffy for me. I like my bronzer brush to be a little more dense than this. So then when I got it for bronzer, I'm like, well, what else am I going to use it for? If you watch me do tutorials, you see me use this brush all the time. I only have one use for it, and it is to remove my bake. It just nicely, softly removes powder that I have placed on my face for baking. It just gently removes any powder that I have on my face. I'm sweeping the product away without disturbing the makeup underneath. This is a Tom Ford brush. This is the number 6 brush, but this one is the natural fiber brush. They do now make it in synthetic. It's not a natural fiber anymore, it's synthetic. So this one is goat hair. I actually used it today, and I'm not sure, sometimes my lighting kind of causes you to not see my contour, so I'm not sure if you can see it that well, but I actually used this one today to contour kind of right around here and in my cheek here. And I just like this for the contour because of the size. It's smaller. It's really a blush brush, but it's so dense that I typically use it more for contour or bronzing in a more precise way. So this is one of my favorites for contour. I love, love, love the Tom Ford bronzer brush. I used it today. This one is the number 5. Also, this is the goat haired version. So they don't make it this way anymore. They make it in synthetic if you want to try that out. I think Rephr makes a brush. They make a natural fiber brush that's very similar to this. If you want to try another company, I don't use that one, but I heard about it here on YouTube, and it looks like this brush, and it's also made of goat hair, but this is goat hair. This brush is just lovely for applying bronzer really quickly. You just sweep it all over really fast. It blends out beautifully, and it is so good. I have been using it so much this year. I'm getting ready to talk about another brush that I use for bronzer, and I used to use it more. This year I've been using this one and one other brush the majority of the time when I'm applying bronzer. The brush that I mentioned that I still love for applying bronzer and I still grab, this is the Pro Angled Blush Brush number 49. And I think one of the reasons I don't use this one as much as I used to is this is my second brush. I wore the other one out and I liked the first one better. You know how you just broke it in really good? And I'm still breaking this one in. So I still use it quite a bit and I still love it, but I love the first one better. And I also bought that one first, and then I discovered some of these other brushes. So that one was my oldie goodie brush, right? But this one is really good for a bronzing with, and I also grab this sometimes to contour with. It just fits perfectly here. You can just really chisel that out and apply the bronzer. It's just really good for that, and I never use it for blush. I always use it for bronzer. Really good. Still been using it this year, just not as much as the others. My other favorite bronzer brush has been this Sephora Pro Precision Powder Brush number 59. This is a natural fiber brush, and it is so good for picking up bronzer. What I have found with natural brushes is they are really good if you're picking up a product that is more dense. So like this Guerlain bronzer is really tightly packed in here, and I don't have to do anything but tap in here very lightly and it'll just show up. Like, you guys I know could probably see that difference that made. All I had to do is just lightly tap that brush into the bronzer and it just pops right there and it's there. You don't have to work that hard to get the product with a natural fiber brush, but specifically this one is just really good. I have loved this one, and my Tom Ford brushes have been the two brushes that I have bronzed with the most. Love those bronzer brushes, so good. And of course this one is more affordable. Let's talk a little bit about blush brushes. The number one blush brush that I've used this year is still this BH Cosmetics. It's my Ray Ray brush number 2, and I've actually been trying to find another blush brush that is high-end. I just don't have one, and I've been looking for one, and I haven't found one that I like more than this. So I'm really shocked that I grabbed so many of these It's My Ray Ray brushes. I intentionally picked this brush up as well as all the other ones that came with this set. This is a soft brush and the fibers are just really comfortable, but it is a synthetic brush. I used it to apply blush today and I feel like I don't look like a clown. It's the perfect size and I love it. Another brush I picked up either this year or the end of last year is this number 73 brush, is the Pro Precision Blush. So it is a blush brush, but it's more precise placement of product. So if I am using a blush that is very light or faint in color and I really want it to show up on my skin, I will grab this so that it will actually show up. It's more precise, and to me it really helps the pigment to show up on your skin. So if you want your blush to be there, then this precision brush is really good. It will place it exactly where you want it. So it's not fluffy like the other one, it's more precise. I'm sure this will be really good for contour as well, because I got a Fenty, like there's a bronzer brush, it's like a contour bronzer type brush, and it looks just like this one. And it's for applying bronzer, and I like to use that sometimes to apply contour. This is the precision brush, and this is the one from Fenty. So see how similar they are? The shape, but this is a bronzer brush, the bronzer 195, and it's supposed to be more precise and you can really contour with it, and it is a good brush. It's not necessarily one of my favorites. I don't grab it all the time, but it is very good. Let's talk a little bit about highlighter, and then we'll talk some about eyeshadow brushes. Two are the same from last year. These came from It's My Ray Ray. I typically use the number 4 brush. I love the shape of this brush. It's just a really good shape for hugging the cheek right here. It just fits perfectly right there when you apply highlighter, and it has been my favorite for a long time. And then the other one from It's My Ray Ray, number 5. This is also a highlighter brush, and this is just fluffier. I feel like this is a softer highlight. Like, I feel like it's a little more soft when I use this brush to apply highlighter, but sometimes I do grab this one too. And this year I purchased the Pro Highlight number 98 brush from Sephora, and it is really good. I used it today to apply highlighter. I actually used this one and this one. I used this one first to apply my highlighter, and I just felt like it gave me such a smooth highlight. And most of what you see here is the Bloom palette. You guys know I love that palette. Most of this is the Bloom palette. Isn't that amazing? Okay. And then I also went back over it and did like a little spotlight right here with the Benefit Cookie highlighter. But most of that beautiful, gorgeous highlight is from my Bloom palette. But that brush has been so wonderful to work with, and I have loved it for highlighter. This one right here. This one. So good. Won't spend a lot of time on this one. This brush I love having whenever I'm carving out my brows, along with this flat definer brush. This is a Sigma brush, flat definer E16. It has little sparkles in it, and this is just really good for carving out brows. This is a brush I have to have. This little flat definer I have to have, and I like using this one, and I have another one by Sigma, but brushes shaped like this that look like this. This one's by Real Techniques. I don't know the number or name of it. And this one is a Sigma brush. E65, I think is maybe what that says. Or F. I like using these to carve out my brows as well. The eyeshadow brushes that I use the most, I don't really have to spend that much time on. There's a Sonia G eyeshadow brush set that you can purchase on Beautylish. And I purchased these 5 brushes, and I have absolutely fallen in love with them and used them the most to apply my eyeshadow all year long. These 5, okay, and a few more I'm going to show you, but this one is for blending, and it's very fluffy. I believe they're all goat-haired brushes, dyed and undyed, and this one is for blending. This one is for crease. This is the crease brush here. This one is the Worker Pro, and this is really good for just defining, just doing work on the outer V. I like to use it there. This is a pencil brush, and this one I like to use to apply eyeshadow on my lid. I don't know, they just upped my makeup game, and I fell in love with them, and I used them more than I used any other brushes. Like, so many brushes over there I haven't even touched all year. I also purchased this Wayne Goss. This is like a blue squirrel haired brush. I wanted to see what blue squirrel hair felt like. So I purchased this brush, and it's a blending brush. It's the Wayne Goss 04, and it's blue squirrel hair, and it's just a blending brush. I use this most of the time when I want to soften harsh lines, because it is a very soft brush, and it just kind of will fade anything you want to fade. I love that. This is another Sonia G brush, the Worker 2. This brush, you can pack on product, you can blend in circular motions, you can put things on the lid. It really is a worker. It does everything. And it's a really fat kind of brush, but it's dense but soft, and it's goat hair, and I love it. Want some more? I want some more brushes. They're just expensive. They're expensive. And then this is also a Wayne Goss brush, the number 18 brush. This is a nice blender. I wish his brushes were a little longer. I feel like they're short. I don't know, they are. Like, they're shorter. This is a goat haired brush. I like to blend with this brush. It's a beautiful blending brush, so I use this one quite a bit too. So those were like my natural hair brushes that I really love. And I don't have very many brushes to talk to you guys about. Like, I didn't bring over my Morphe brushes, even though I still use those. I still grab them from time to time. But you can go back and watch my previous video if you want to find out more about those. And this is the Sigma E40 as well as the Sigma E38. They're basically similar, except this is more of a crease blending brush, and this is sort of an all over fluffy brush. So these are my favorite blending brushes that I use and continue to use them all year. So if you're looking for synthetic brushes and brushes that might be a little bit more affordable than the Sonia G brushes, I would say to check Sigma out. I love these. I have a few brushes left. These two are from Sigma. These are the Short Shader E20 and the E32, Exact Blend and Short Shader. And I tend to grab these to blend underneath my lash line. They're very similar, except this one can be used other ways. Like you can use them over here as well. But I use them a lot under my lash line to blend out underneath. And I can use other brushes, but these are just very convenient. They're just perfectly shaped for that, for blending underneath the lash line. This little brush I talked about last year is like a ColourPop angled liner brush that I got a long time ago, and I like using this on my brows, not for liner. Whenever I'm applying brow powder, this is the brush I like to use because it's something about it that I can get the shape that I want with this particular angled brush. It's like turning colors. I'll have to buy another one soon because when I lose this brush, I'm really upset if I have to grab something else. Like, it's the best. This is an E36 brush from Morphe, and I love to use this for my inner corner highlight. I also, this year, since getting this Sonia G, I will grab this one too, but it's a little larger. It's a pencil brush. It's also good for that. But when I really want very small placement of product, this little domed round brush is just good for your inner corner highlight. Those little tiny brushes come in handy. They serve a purpose. Some places, you know, you just don't want to use something huge. Some of these little small brushes are perfect. Boop, boop, boop. This little is dirty. It's dirty. I just used it, but it's dirty. This is the Laura Mercier. It's like a little puff. And I did wash this and it didn't go completely back to the shape that it was originally. Like, it's bunched up a little bit. I'm gonna keep working on it. But I found that this was really good for applying powder, and I got it this year with a gift set and really loved it for pressing in powder. And it's also good for just touching up like I just did without any additional product. It's just good for getting the shine off. These little puffs are good if you want to really smoothly press in the powder so that you don't look like cake face. I just think it helps. But I will say that it does use more product than a brush. I felt like when I applied my powder with this, I was applying a lot more powder. I had to dip in more, but especially at least in your concealer areas, I would recommend something like this if you want to try it out. I like it. I like it a lot. I didn't have this all year, but I did want to mention that it is worth purchasing. If you can get it in a gift set, that's the best way to go though. This is not wet any longer. I wet it earlier and washed it for this video, but I do want to mention the Beauty Blender. I bought a Beauty Blender set over the holidays a year ago. I still have one that I have not opened. I really didn't have to open the others. I'll open a new one whenever I want a nice fresh one, but they hold up so long. I like this sponge more than any sponge. I think that's what anyone would tell you. If you're a person that says, I'm not going to spend $20 on a sponge, I would suggest, highly suggest that you do it just one time. Just one time, buy a Beauty Blender versus the knockoff brands, because I don't think you will regret it. This beauty sponge is still better than any other sponge. I will still comment. I had a Morphe sponge. I have a Urban Decay one I got this year. Those aren't bad sponges, but they're not this sponge. This sponge is still better. I have not found a sponge that I like better than the Beauty Blender. So I just want you guys to know that. I still love the Beauty Blender. This is one that came in a set and I recommend it. I have a whole video dedicated to this product. I use this all the time to apply my lashes. It is the Bullseye by Sephora. It just says Sephora on it, but I think it's a Bullseye. And it's like a plastic little lash applicator. It's metal, but it's covered in plastic. And I use this every single time that I apply my lashes. And this is the second one. I actually purchased one and I've re-upped on this because it was tearing a little bit, and so I have to have this. I've never used tweezers. It's difficult with nails for me to apply my lashes, so I had to have an applicator, and this is the one that I've just been buying. It's rubber because it has the soft rubber on it. I'm not fearful that it's gonna hurt my eye, so I like using this. So I wanted to mention this little tool, and it's not that expensive, and if you need help applying lashes, this might be something you want to buy, because see how it opens and closes, so you can really pinch down on them and pinch them together and place it. It's just perfect. I love it. You can flip it over on the other side and use it this way to really put the lash in place. A lot of you have seen me use it in my videos when I do makeup tutorials, but I just wanted to mention it. It's a great tool. It's not really a brush, but it's a tool. I just wanted y'all to know about it. So that's it as far as my favorite brushes for 2019. So if you have any questions or comments about anything that I mentioned today, please leave them down below and I will respond. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. YouTube likes to promote videos with a lot of likes. And if you've not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and click that subscribe button before you leave. So I'll be seeing you guys again very soon in my next video. So until the next time we meet again, this is Savvy, signing out.